bitmap font. In the beginning, you probably only had one, and it got scaled.
And they probably were fixed size, right? So
yeah.
like Courier Neo or something. So
yeah.
Each character has its own. Like
No, the Courier Neo is a monospace font, and Times New Roman.
Courier old, or is there like a Courier?
No, not really.
No?
There was Courier.
Okay.
Courier before that was a typewriter font.
Okay.
And then it became an IBM Selectric golf ball typewriter font, Courier.
Yeah.
And then Courier New was like the screen version of it.
Yeah.
One thing that you guys ought to do if people are really interested in this is go talk to Greg Hitchcock in the ClearType group. And get him to walk you through, get him and the ClearType guys to walk you through what actually goes into hinting a font. I mean, this stuff in the beginning had to be brute forced by people writing this assembler type language. It was awful. You had to be both a typographer, because you could understand what the type should look like, and a programmer at really low level, assembler type programming.
Right.
One of the things that we did was we created a tool called Visual TrueType, which has a visual user interface that allows you to create these relationships. So for example, you can go in and you can specify that these stems are all linked. They're all the same size. Maintain these stems the same size, so that's
maintain the space between them, right? Like
maintain the space between them and maintain the thickness of the stems. You can do that with a single. You drag an arrow from here to here. You drag one arrow from here to here to here, and that defines the relationship, and that's done. That's it. So it became very much easier. It's still a highly skilled job. It still takes time. It still takes somebody who really knows what they're doing in terms of the way the type looks on the screen. But it's much easier than it was. So we're kind of got sidetracked with that one.
Yeah. So back to you figured out Verdana and Georgia.
Verdana and Georgia, but one of the other things that happened was the Internet Explorer guys came to us in 1985 and said we need a font strategy for the web, and we said okay, we're building Verdana and Georgia. Because you remember, I came to Microsoft because I believed that the screen was the future of reading. So that was the first project I started, was to build a couple of typefaces for reading long passages of text on the screen. So when the Internet Explorer guys came to us, we said, well, you know what? We've already got these fonts. They're just about finished. You guys could ship those. We should put together a web font pack.
Oh, I love Verdana.
We should put together a web font pack. You can ship it with Internet Explorer. We should ship it with Windows, we should ship it with Office, we should make a Macintosh version, we should put a version up on our website for free download by anybody, because what we wanted to do was seed the web with a set of typefaces that every designer would know were going to be in everybody's machine, but that were good quality for reading.
They really took off, right? There's like a lot of websites using them.
Oh, hugely. I mean, Verdana is probably the most used font on the web today. They took off hugely.
Yeah.
But it was deliberate. We deliberately tried to seed the web with those fonts.
It was also it was really a great font. I remember when I was doing websites and I came across Verdana, I really liked it, right?
Yeah.
It was readable.
Yeah.
That's what you want, like.
It was designed that way. I mean,
that's what you want, like as a reader. You want to have the text in a readable form, not like some kind of what's going on.
I met Matthew Carter, who's one of the leading font designers in the world, at the Seaboard Publishing Conference in Boston in spring 1995. I'd been in the job 6 weeks at Microsoft. And I sat down with Matthew, who'd been doing some other work for us, and I said, is it possible, by designing specifically for the screen, to create two new typefaces, a serif face and a sans serif face, that set a new level, a new standard for readability on the screen? He said yes. I said okay, let's talk about how much it'll cost and how long it'll take, and let's get the contract signed and do it. And that's what we did. So we set off with Verdana and Georgia and the web font pack, but we also realised that even that was still a limited number of fonts.
And in terms of you looking at the world, I mean, this is when IE was just starting. Has there been anything, like, it seems like a number of things have really sort of not progressed. I mean, you talked about some of the CSS for separation, but readability in browsers, like, slight improvements, but it really is at the same time the same stuff we shipped in 95,
One of the key issues I was just kind of coming to this next. One of the key issues was the availability of fonts on the web. When Internet Explorer came to us, we said, not only do you need this web font pack with these nice new fonts in it, but you need a technology that allows web page designers to embed their fonts in web pages so they can use any font they want. And it just so happens we have one, because Microsoft had developed a font embedding technology for Word where there was the same problem. I send a Word document to somebody and they don't have the font that I created it in, they try to print it out and it looks terrible. Right, so I wanted to be able to embed my fonts in a Word document. So the Word guys developed a TrueType embedding DLL. It still has the same name even today. It's called T2embed.dll.
Interesting.
Right? They developed this technology. Now, the great thing about it was those guys were really smart and foresighted, because they said, you know what, this is not going to work unless the font industry, the people who create the font IP, sign up to it. So they went and held a series of talks with the font industry, and along with the font industry defined what the system was and how it would work. Not only that, but they modified the TrueType format specifically to put a new set of bits into the OS2 table of TrueType that control embedding, allow the original designer of the font to set whether they're going to allow the font to be embedded and what level of embedding they're going to allow, whether it's print and preview, so read only, or editable embedding, so somebody else can maybe fill in details on a form or whatever, right?
Okay.
Or or they're not going to allow embedding at all, or complete embedding, But it allowed the original creator of a font, the person who owned the IP, to decide what level of embedding they were going to allow.
Yeah, it's crucial, right?
So we looked at that piece of technology and said the web needs exactly this, and that's what we did. We implemented that. Internet Explorer implemented that in 1996.
Oh.
We've had font embedding in Internet Explorer working since 1996.
But does anybody use it?
Nobody uses it. You know what? Very few. Some people do. Some people are very keen on it, but very few. And the reason that nobody used it was this all happened. I have to track you back through history here. Back in 1995, we were right in the middle of browser wars, right?
Yeah.
Okay? It was World of Browsercraft. There was Netscape and there was us, right? Yeah. Netscape had the large part of the market, and we were trying to pull that back. And so what happened was we went with the system which we had, which was proprietary Microsoft technology. Netscape licensed a system from Bitstream, a font company. Now, the problem was then you had two browsers with different embedding standards.
Right.
Neither became a standard, so neither took off. So when I joined the Internet Explorer team about just under 2 years ago, that was one of the first things I looked at, because that's the crucial. People think font embedding is a small issue. It's not. It's a huge issue for the web, because once you fix it, once you get a standard in place, then fonts just become usable in the same way that they're usable for print, and everything changes. It's a huge step forward.
It's often if I go to university and I fire up, they have Linux there, right? And I fire up the browser and I had like my fonts in there, like the ones that came with the new Office. It's not showing up properly, right? Because that font is not available on the system. So what it does is like everything looks like this font gets smaller, bigger, because they fall back to another font which they think it's like similar. I have like a list of fonts they can fall back, but still it's like it's not the same, right?
Yeah. So this is a major issue for the web. So I looked at this when I joined the Internet Explorer team and said somebody's got to fix this. I realised that while keeping the font embedding technology proprietary Microsoft technology, because we'd invested a lot of money in creating this, back in 1995 made sense. It no longer made sense in the world we have today, where web standards were beginning to evolve and people were...
Standards is how it's going to take off.
Standards is how it's going to take off. So I brought together a virtual team of people around Microsoft. There was Chris Wilson in the Internet Explorer team. Right. There was Simon Daniels from Windows International Typography. there was Greg